Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prime Strings. I'm Henriette, and today is our live session. We've been doing these live sessions for the last couple of months, and we follow the same format all the time. You can ask any questions, violin related, that you want. All I want the comments and questions courteous and respectful, and be respectful if you respond to your fellow attendees as well, and then we'll have a lovely hour or however long it takes for all the questions to get answered. Now, when you want to ask a question, let me just walk you through how this thing works. In my screen on the right hand side there is a chat box, and you can write your questions in there. As I am talking, I'm trying to read the text, the messages in the text box as well, and I will respond to each of them in turn. Now, it may be that 10 people ask a question all at the same time. I'll do my best to keep track of where we are, but if I forget you, please don't take that too personal, because it's just that there are lots of things coming in at the same time. If you want to pin your message to the top, you can click on one of those icons right at the bottom of your checkbox. First of all, you get the emoji. So if you want to express an emoji, and I'll let me see if I can find one that I like. That is going to be difficult. I'll write a little smiley face there, and I can enter that. And you can also, if you click on that dollar sign, support this channel, and you can support it in two different ways. You can add a super sticker. That is an animated image that you pay for, and it pins your... No, that doesn't pin it. Sorry, I'm wrong here. So the super sticker just livens up your question a little bit. And then you can also offer a super chat. And depending on the monetary value that you put to it, and you can decide that on your own, your question gets pinned to the top for a shorter or longer period of time. Those are YouTube generated support systems, and they're perfectly good to use. If you want to support this channel straight away, you can do so in the banner, in the channel banner, right at the top of the homepage. There is a button, support this channel. So if you'd be so kind to use that, if you feel like it. You can also support the channel straight away by going to PayPal and go on info@proamstrings.com. That is also my email address. So if you've got specific questions, you can email me, and I will do my best to answer your questions. So there are a couple of questions that have already come in that people have asked in comment section below the videos. So I might start off by answering those, because maybe the people that are here are those people that have asked those questions. If you want to write your question in the chat box now, you can do that, but you can also feel free to just try out how this works and write where you live, because it's really nice for me and for others also to see that usually when we do these sessions, people come from all over the world. So I am currently in Norwich in the UK. So I'll set you off on that one, and I'll send it there. Do let me know where you are located. It's always nice to see. And someone has already written the first question, so let me just see what that is. I just started with the Suzuki method. How good do you need to be able to play a piece before going to the next lesson? That is a very good question, and a very tempted one. Oh, you're from the Netherlands. Goedemiddag, en wat leuk om jou hier te zien. So, ik ben ook van the Netherlands. I'm also from the Netherlands, but I've been living in the UK for a rather long time. So welcome, Mariska. How long should you be on every piece before you move on in the Suzuki book is a very good question. Now, Mr. Suzuki, when he thought of his pedagogy, he wanted every piece to be completely internalized before you move on. But this method is meant for little children to learn together with their parents. This is how it was originally developed. So the idea is, it's called a mother tongue method. So the idea is that you learn to play the violin like you would learn your mother tongue, which means that you practice it every single day, and every time you make a little mistake, your mummy would say, oh no, you have to do it this way. So the parents learn alongside with the children. But we use it as adults, and that method is perfectly valid for adults as well as for children. And what happens is, when you are an adult, we tend to look ahead what's coming, and we hope that our progress is just that little bit faster, isn't it? Still, I think it is a very good idea to regularly refer back to older pieces so that you can see if you still have all the details in those pieces while you progress. So I don't mind it if you learn 2 or 3 pieces all at the same time. So you do look ahead a little bit, but at the same time, keep getting back to your old pieces and to just consolidating all the techniques before you really move on. So what a lot of people do, and people write about this in the comment section below the videos, they regularly go back and they don't move from one book to the next before they can play every single piece in book 1 properly. And with properly, I mean so that you can play it without having to think too much about the notes, and that you can nearly play them off by heart. And that is a deep way of learning. So you might stay on your pieces for longer rather than shorter periods of time, but there's nothing wrong with just mixing and matching your pieces. So thank you for this question. That is a very useful one. Now, I'm just scrolling back to my chats now. Good afternoon, morning from Michigan, USA. Presumably, it's quite early in the morning where you are, Kim. So welcome, and lovely to see you here. Let me just go. Could you suggest a first classical piece for a beginner violinist playing under a year? Now, that is also a very good question, and there are unfortunately a limited number of classical pieces. Excuse me. What I always like to recommend, and I'll show you this, I'll just get up and get an example from this book here, and that is a piece in the classical style, if not completely a classical piece of music by one of the big composers, but this is a really good piece for you to learn. One moment. And this is the Reading Concerto Opus 35 in B minor. And you will love this piece if you don't know it yet. It's fairly straightforward and easy to play. And I can myself clearly remember when I first started learning this piece, I absolutely loved it. And when you play pieces that you really enjoy playing and you think, oh, I can do this, it's not too hard, then that will encourage you to play more of it. And that is going to really promote your progress. So I can thoroughly recommend it. I happen to have 3 different versions here, so I'll show them to you. Let me see, so that I keep it all neat and tidy. There is this one here. It's exactly the same piece, Reading Opus 35. This comes with the CD. It's rather more expensive. This one is about £20, I think. And then there is this one, Beerenreiter's Easy Concertos. It's exactly the same piece as well, Reading Opus 35. And then there's the one that I've just shown you. So go ahead and get that started, because I just think you will absolutely love it. I do have an Amazon shop, and you can buy it there. I've pre-selected a lot of pieces in that shop, and that's why I set it up, because if you go on Amazon and you Google violin concertos for beginners, you get rather a lot of stuff, which is everything. So also things that are completely unsuitable. But if you go on, let me just write that down in the chat box. Amazon. shop.co.uk or amazon.com. If you're in America, shop/pro strings. You'll find pre-selected pieces there. So I've just collected all my favorite things in that shop, things that I use all the time, not just concertos, but also other performance pieces and graded pieces and everything that you might need as a violin learner. So hopefully you'll find it easy to find. You'll find it easy, to find your piece there. I'm just going to go back to my chat box now, and I can see Ipsata. Hello from India. Welcome, Ipsata, and lovely to see you here. And then there's Linda. Hello from Kent, Linda says. So hello and welcome, Linda. I think I recognize your name, so you've been here before. Please could you explain the correct way to play harmonics and the difference between natural and artificial harmonics? Yes, I'll be very pleased to explain that to you. Harmonics are people call nature tones, and they are sound on your violin without pressing the string down. So if I string in a certain way, I'll show you in a second. If I touch the strings in a certain way, that string will respond and it will flip up an octave or it will flip up a fifth, and it depends on where exactly you touch the strings. So when I play, I have to apologize in advance because the YouTube live is not specifically made for violin sound, so the sound will be rather a lot worse than you would normally expect from me, but I think we can get the gist of it. Now, the most often used harmonics are about here, and they are, you touch them really with your pinky, and if you've got your violin ready, you might do it together with me. The place of that harmonic is about 2 centimeters above the rim of the violin. So the rim is here, and 2 centimeters above brings you about here. And that is the exact middle of the string length. We know that the string length goes from the nut here, where it is fixed, up until the bridge, where it's also fixed. And if you touch the string very lightly, exactly in the middle, the tone will flip up an octave. Now, I'm not having to press the string down at all, so I'm just touching it with my pinky, look. So here's my normal A. And if I do that, my string will flip up suddenly. And that's the most amazing. This is what I mean by nature tones. This is what harmonics are. Now, you have the harmonics on every single string. See, you can play 4 strings. And the trick for playing harmonics is that you are very light in your left hand, but with a very strong bow, because you need to manipulate that string in such a way that it can actually up an octave, you see. So you've got to be very strong with the bow. Now, if you have, these are called natural harmonics because I don't have to do anything. So these are the most often occurring ones. There are also natural harmonics exactly where your third finger is when you play in the first position. And then your note will flip up an octave plus a fifth. So it will sound just like your next string up, but then a high version of that. And that is everywhere where you could play the third finger. So I'm not pressing the string down, but I'm just lightly touching the third finger here. Okay. Also natural harmonics. So my finger, again, is very light and my bow is very strong to make the sound. Now, apart from natural harmonics, there are also artificial harmonics. And artificial harmonics is where you pretend to shorten the string. Because I'm going to say, put my finger down on, let me just have this note here. I'm putting my first finger on C. And now with my pinky, I am using the harmonic on the fourth finger here. And now I'm going an octave up from where my first finger is. So I'm playing a C here, and this is an artificial harmonic, will sound a C an octave higher. Okay? And you can find that anywhere. I think any note. Yeah, any note that you play, you could play an artificial harmonic on, and that just is that same note, but an octave higher. And sometimes you've got harmonic sections in pieces of music, and that just is a special effect. I'm hoping, I don't want to make it too complicated now. I'm hoping that explains to you the difference between artificial harmonics and natural harmonics. Okay, let me just go through the chat box again. Tata, how can I overcome the fourth finger problem? I imagine that you mean the fourth finger of the left hand. I mean, somebody else has asked another question about the fourth finger of the right hand. So I'll come to that. I'll take this as your question, the fourth finger of the left hand. Now, when you look at the hand, you can see that pinky is the smallest one, and with most people, it's also the thinnest one, and it is then also the finger that we use the least. I mean, most of the time when you do everyday tasks, you use your thumb and your index finger and your middle finger, sometimes your ring finger as well, but very rarely do you use only your pinky, do you? So pinky the smallest and the thinnest, it's also the least practiced in everyday life, you see. So for violinists, that can create issues sometimes. Now, the fourth finger is helped immensely by your left elbow. And if you find it difficult to get your fourth finger on the string, it may be that your hand is a little bit too low. And what you need to do is to bring your hand up and to bring your elbow under the violin if you can. I see a lot of people playing like this, and you can almost see that my little finger is almost falling off the string for that. Now, I'm going to go and alter my position now very slowly, and then you can see how that benefits my pinky. So keep looking here and keep looking here at the same time. So I'm bringing my elbow around. Now take a look at the pinky, because it gets much closer to the string. Can you see? And now I'm bringing my elbow quite far around, because if you want to play on the G string, you need that extra length, you see. So if I bring my elbow further under the violin, it steers my fingers, all of my fingers, not just the pinky, to the left side. Okay, so if you find it difficult to reach your pinky and it will fall off like that, you can do two things. First of all, make sure that this row of knuckles is level with the string. So you might check it this way. Is my row of knuckles level with the strings or above rather than below? I see quite a few people playing like that. So that's your first port of call. Raise your hand so that more of your fingers are above. And then, secondly, bring your elbow round. Now, I'm very interested in hearing how that may help you over the next couple of weeks. So if you are watching a video, write a little bit about that below any video to see if that has helped you sort out your pinky. It takes a little while before that pinky to grow stronger. Obviously, when you start using it, I would suggest to play lots of fourth fingers. We tend to always avoid using the fourth fingers, don't we? But if you start to use it more and bring your elbow under, you should find over time that gets a lot easier. Hello, there's another person from India here, Sivara Makrishna. Hello and welcome. It's lovely to see people here. Kim says, thank you, that's good. Okay, you remember I was talking about when you Google beginner concertos, you do get all sorts of everything searching. Thanks, Kim, for that. I thought that might be the case. And that is the big disadvantage of having so much information, isn't it? Sometimes it's completely overwhelming, so you can't find what you're looking for at all. Hello, Danielle. I recognize your name as well from your comments below some of the videos. So welcome. Lovely to see you here in this class too. There are so many variations. What is your favorite rosin? That is a super question as well. Yes. there are very many different rosins, and my favorite one is the one that I came across by accident, is the Perastro Gold. And this is more or less the most expensive rosin that you can buy. I had to buy it at some point because I'd smashed my old rosin, and this was the only one available in the shop. And now I'm hooked, because this is a nice soft rosin. It's light and it is soft, so it comes off the block easily. And that is the case with rosins. Is good. So cheap ones, expensive ones, they're all good. But the cheaper ones, you have to rosin much more before you find that it is effective. And the more expensive you get your piece of rosin, the easier it comes away. It's just, I don't know how they make it exactly. It's just much less dense. So it comes away from your rosin into your bow much better. Now, I'm going to show you now how to rosin the bow, which seems like a daft idea to do, but I mostly show all my pupils how to rosin their bows properly, because some people find they rosin and it's completely ineffective. So let me show you that as well. First of all, I'm going to cover this metal part of my bow here with my thumb, because if I smash my rosin into it, bits will chip off. And I don't want that. I really like the rosin to be clean. Look, you see, I've lent it to somebody, and that makes me very cross. Okay, so I cover this with my thumb, and now I'm going to rosin really short sections. So I see this quite a lot, and it's not as effective as doing about 10 centimeters, staying there for a bit, then do the next 10 centimeters, staying there for a bit, then the next 10 centimeters. So you do it like that. And I don't know if I can show you, but oh no, you can't really see that as well. I can really see that the rosin is coming off. And then when I see that happening, that I've got sort of this white powder on my bow, I continue to rosin a little bit more, because the rosin shouldn't just be on the outside of the hair, but we're hoping that the rosin mixes in between the hairs, and it fills up all the space between the hairs, so that it will release the rosin gradually, you see. So rosin bit by bit and very thoroughly. Now, if you end up with your violin being all white after you've played, you can take back your rosining a level, because then you're wasting the rosin, because it just falls off. And rosin has a chemical reaction with the varnish of your violin. So if you do that all the time for a couple of years, the rosin will eventually dissolve the varnish of your violin. So you don't want it to be caked in rosin, but you want to have just enough so that it keeps your bow nice and rough, I would almost say, because the point of the rosin is that we're going to create some friction between the bow and the strings, because it is the friction that will help you make the sound. So there we are. This is my Perastro Gold. If you look at my shop, there are several different rosins, because different people are looking for different things in a rosin. So this is soft rosin. It works well in colder climates because it's soft. It also works in hotter climates, and you guys living in hotter climates can tell me more about rosin, how rosin responds. But it responds, it reacts to the atmosphere. So in hotter climates, I go for a slightly harder rosin, I think, but I can't speak from experience on that, but I think that's how it works. Now, lots of people say, oh, can I use cello rosin? Of course you can use cello rosin. It's essentially the same thing. This is an old grubby piece of rosin. And this is quite a nice one as well. I've lost the lid of this. This is high design. You might recognize these ones. Now, for my higher violins, and again, I'm going to stand up and pick one up. For my higher violins, I use the cheapest rosin that I can find, and that is the reason for that is that this rosin is mostly used by little children. Oh, now this one's even smashed in the pot, but since it is a cheap rosin, it really doesn't matter. So if you're looking for a rosin for your children and you've got stone floors, then you're in for some regular replacements of rosin. So buy the cheapest ones you can find. The only thing is that you need to rosin more frequently and intensely to get the same result as from the high-end rosins. Some people are allergic to rosins and they sneeze all the time once they've rosin their bow. There is hypoallergenic rosin available. So if that is you, then you might look for that as well. And then there are all sorts of types of rosin that you can get that are suitable as little presents. You can have sparkly rosins and pink rosins and purple rosins as well. So they make nice stocking fillers this time of year. But I wouldn't myself buy that because it's as good as any other rosin, really. But if that's what you're after, that's another possibility there. So let me see. That is, so in other words, in answer to your question, M, that is my favorite rosin. Okay, I'm just reading a comment from Kim's YouTube channel. Kim, this is an interesting question that you're just asking here. Kim says, I can't hear the difference between 3/4 time, 3/4 time and 4/4 time, even with a metronome. I can follow the metronome, but I don't hear the difference or sense the difference in my left hand. Suggestions? Yes. I think that is a matter of training. Now, a metronome ticks at regular intervals, doesn't it? So you could practice any time on that. You can count to 2 and you can count to 3 and you can count to 4 and it still keeps clicking. So this is your exercise. If you put your metronome on and you want to clap along and you just count along as well. Now I'll get up again and get my metronome. Hang on a second. If I know where it is. Here it is. This is my metronome. I have put it on 9. That's what it's on. So you can hear that it's clicking non-stop. Now I'm going to count 3/4 times. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'm hoping you're joining in with me wherever you are. Okay, so you clap loudly on 1 and then softly on 2 and 3. And this is 3/4 time. So we're counting to 3 all the time with a very strong beat on 1. Now let's practice now clapping 4/4 time, which means there are 4 counts in 1 bar, and we're going to count strongly on 1 and softly on 2, 3, and 4. Will you join me? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You see, and this way you can practice it. Now, if you want to start then walking along, and that's a very good exercise, very useful to get more of that feeling within your body. You walk along and you stamp on 1. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get the hang of that, you're progressing really nicely. And you might start to listen to some waltzes. So go on Spotify or on YouTube and find some Viennese waltzes. Waltzes are always in 3/4 time. Okay, so you can just count along 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you might start to listen to some orchestral waltzes or some big band waltzes or piano waltzes, so that you get used to some different ideas, okay, different instruments playing. And you do the same with marches, and marches are always in 4 time or in 2 time, left, right, you see? So this is how these things work and how you can start to learn to feel them. Now, I would be careful not to connect this too much to your own playing in the early stages, because you're having so much, because then you add the complications of bowing, of left hand, of violin posture, the rest of that. Just practice this at your desk away from the violin until you get that difference between 3/4 time and 4/4 time, right? And then eventually you will incorporate that in your play. And I'm hoping that that might help you. Hello, Wendy. I can see you're here as well. That's lovely. And Joe is here from Lebanon. Hello, Joe. You guys know each other. That is quite nice. At what point in my skill level do I get to think about upgrading my violin? You've got a lot of questions, but they're all good ones, so I don't mind. It's good. Useful question. I always say to people, spend as much as you can afford on your violin. And that's easy for me to say because that doesn't affect my bank account, you see. But it is well worth it because more high-end violins give you more back than you put in. The lower-end violins, and I've got another review website that is called violinplayercity.com, where I review instruments. Please stay clear of the cheapest violins because they just are very difficult to play. And when you're just learning, you want something that is easier to play rather than something that's harder to play. So if you feel that you're making a nice sound and you feel that you want to play a nicer sound, you want to make a nicer sound than you're currently getting from your violin, you might need to speak to your teacher about that as well. But I imagine that may be after about 2 years of learning or so. Upgrade your violin. If you have an opportunity to try other people's violins, I would definitely do that as well, because it gives you some experience as to what other violins feel like and sound like, because they're all different. And I can't really tell you go for this one or that one, because the necks of all the violins have got different widths, and the thicknesses are slightly different, and it all depends on the size of your hand and the way you have your violin on your shoulder, which suits you. So the golden rule is spend as much as you can afford, because you are always going to get more pleasure out of a better quality instrument than a less good quality instrument. I'm hoping that is helpful. Let me see, what else have we got? Mariska, I cannot get a good E, fourth finger on the A string. According to the sound check app, I can't find the E anywhere. Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not familiar with the sound check app. It may be that you mean a tuning app. Okay, so let me assume that you know that. You want to make sure that your strings are tuned properly in relation to one another, because the fourth finger on the A string should sound the same as the open E string. I'll show you this, and again, apologies for the sound quality. So here is my A. 1, 2. So the fourth finger is a space away from the third finger. Can you see that? I've got a gap between my fingers. And if I now bring my elbow under, which is what we've discussed earlier, I can make a little tunnel underneath my fingers so that I can hear the E string. That is how it should be. What else can I say? I'm hoping, let me know. Just write in the text box to see if that is what you mean, your question. And otherwise I'll come back to that, okay? My desk is covered in chips of rosin now, so it's all getting very, very sticky. Okay, let me see. Okay, well, I'm glad you find the metronome challenge helpful. That helped clapping time. Walking is also a good idea, yes. Oh, yes, I remember now. I'm reading Wendy's comment. You were hoping that your boss would let you out early so that you can follow this class. Tell your boss, I like him or her. I love them. And it's really good to be able to come away from work and do something nice and then go back refreshed, hopefully. Let's see. Joe says, I've started 2 months ago and now I'm in my third finger. Am I late or fast? Well, Joe, that is a difficult question. It depends on how much you play. If you play 5 hours a day, I would say that is about right. I am a great believer in staying on open string playing for as long as I can manage with my pupils. So people complain sometimes and say, Johnny isn't yet playing his first finger and he's done half a term's lessons. Actually, Johnny's bowing technique is pretty awesome by then. And when you play your fingers, you lose a lot of, when you start learning to play your fingers, I should say, you lose a lot of your developed bowing techniques you have been developing previously. So I would say, Joe, that you've done quite well delaying your fingers because your sound will be really good. What you get is when you play the fingers, we want a good sound, and suddenly we need to learn to split our brain in half for the left hand, half for the bow hand. So I think you're about right. If you find that your sound has now got really screechy, or you don't make as smooth a sound, smoother bowing as you had before, just go back to, or warm up, I should say. Keep on playing your fingers, but warm up by just playing open strings. And that is good for anyone attending this class today. When you start a new day of violin playing, just play every open string 4 times with long bows, and you'll be amazed when you do that for 2 or 3 weeks how well your sound will develop just for playing 4 times G, 4 times D, 4 times A, 4 times E, and then you go down again, and then you make the nicest sound that you possibly can, and your progress will be just zooming ahead. So there's a suggestion for you. Let me just read another tuning app. Yeah, okay, that is what I thought. Perhaps I'm just looking through the comments. Mariska, please let me know if that answered your question or whether I should try and a slightly different way. Yeah, that's also true. Wendy says, maybe you can read these comments as well. Once in a while, the app cannot hear a particular note and it just won't register. That is definitely also the case. If you have a clippy on, like a snarky tuning app, try pegging it onto a different peg, or try an app that you have on your phone, because it may just pick up the sound slightly differently. Maybe that is what is the matter. Tuning app says E flat. Okay. All right. So you will need to go fairly, you are a little bit flat then, most likely. So you need to go further away with your little finger. If you're on E flat, you are here. And what you need to do is just slide this pinky up a little bit. So you're here on E flat. That's where E flat is. And E is a little bit further away. Now that puts a little bit of strain here on your hand. So if that happens, bring your elbow around and hopefully you should stretch a little bit further. So give that a go and maybe that helps. M, this is a useful question from M. How can you tell when it's time to rehair the bow, please? Super question. That, again, depends on how much you play. I rehair my bow. I play all day, every day. I rehair my bow every 9 to 12 months. So more often than you think. A telltale sign that you need new hair on your bow is when you feel like you need to suddenly put a lot more rosin on than you always used to. What happens with hair, occasionally when you're at the hairdressers, you can see like a hair shown under a microscope, and you see the hair and it's got all these little side bits. And when it's the same with bow hair. When you bow quite a lot on that bow hair, those little side wispy bits, they just wear off. And those are the ones that hold the rosin onto your bow. So if you lose those little wispy bits, it means that the rosin falls out of your bow much more quickly, which you perceive as having to rosin your bow much more than before. Okay, and that is the time to have your bow rehaired. And you'll suddenly find that when you've got new hair, your sound will be much warmer because it holds the rosin much better. Oh no, rosin revenge. Hello, Mondvaidani. Good afternoon from Hungary. He or she says, I don't know. So welcome to Pro Strings. It's lovely to see you here. Really good. Any questions, Mondvaidani? Just write them in the text box, please. Philomen sends a violin clip-on that tells you what note you are playing. Yes, that is true. And they tell you what note you're playing. That is right. And also, sometimes they have got green and red lights, don't they? Kim says, my teacher is an accomplished pianist, but beginner-level violinist. She's 88. She's 88 and learned violin at 65. She wants to learn vibrato together. Do you have any specific thoughts for her older hands? That's a good question. I'll have to think about that one. I'm not sure that it makes any difference if they're not very arthritic, that is, because that can be quite painful, I imagine. I'm not quite sure. But if you follow my vibrato video, you might find that that is pretty good going together. And I've seen various people who've had lessons with me recently who have learned vibrato with the vibrato video, and it's come out as a really nice vibrato. So you can try and ask your teacher to do this with you. Slide up and down the string with your hand. I'll give you one example of one finger. I'm starting on my second finger. So I'm moving my arm in and out, my left arm. So the movement starts here in the elbow and it goes just like that. And then you go like that. So you be careful that you don't wave your wrist like this. You see, this all moves as one thing. And then once you are loose enough to be able to do this, then pretend you stick some super glue on your finger and you make your finger very nice and flexible. See, my finger joints move now because my elbow is moving. Can you see that? So you can do it like that. So I can imagine if you have very arthritic fingers, if you're an older person, that may not be as comfortable. But if, I don't know, give it a go and see if that works. So that is my suggestion for older hands. But what a lovely thing to do, to learn vibrato together. That's a really good idea, isn't it? I can't get my right hand to get with the program yet in vibrato. Left hand is obeying, but right hand is naughty, so I have some practicing to do. Yes, thank you, Kim, for that comment. This is about vibrato, and Kim is saying, how can I go like that with my left hand without my bow going like that? And this is the same thing as patting your head and rubbing your tummy, which I can't do. I won't do it now. So it's two completely different movements. So you're quite right saying you need to get this going on automatic pilot a bit more before you then put the bow to it. But it's quite normal. I see this quite a lot. And that's just a matter of time. You do your vibrato here, and then the bow just can only go up and down like that. So that is a phase in progress. So give it some time and you will hopefully be able to sort it out. Now, Monvi, do you have any suggestions to correct left hand stiffness, considering especially the thumb? Yes, I do. It's a good point. Recognizing that the hand is stiff is the first step to improvement, isn't it? So well done you. Now, getting the hand to become looser, first of all, what you might do, I'm starting with the larger muscle groups here. Move your elbow in and out. It gets a whole lot looser because there are quite a few people who stand like this and they have it all from the shoulders up into the upper arms and into the forearms. It's all really, really stiff. So that is the thing to start first. Make it looser here. Do lots of that. Okay. And then once you get to the smaller muscle groups, what you might do is just play a little phrase of music and then check that your thumb is loose. Now, your thumb is loose. I'm saying what you want is this pad here in the base of your thumb to be soft. If we squeeze that very hard, you can feel that this is rock hard here, you see. So if you feel this is hard, it must be that your thumb is too stiff, squeezing too hard. But there may be a reason why your thumb wants to squeeze so hard, and it may well be that your violin is not sitting on your shoulder correctly. So weirdly enough, if you have an issue with the left thumb, I would look for the solution first and to see if you've got a proper fitting shoulder rest. Now, there is a lot of debate about shoulder rest, and I think when you're a beginner or an intermediate player, I would definitely start by playing with the shoulder rest, even though some people say later on maybe you might lower your shoulder rest or take it away completely. But that's not the question here. We're talking about basic positioning so that the left hand can work independently. Now, you noticed it earlier already. This is an exercise you might do as well. Can you hold your violin just like that? Now, when I'm like this, what we're looking for is that you've got a nice contact between the shoulder rest all the way along here, along your shoulder. When you look at my shoulder rest, it's not straight. Perhaps it's easier to see it this way. It's curved, and it's curved the exact same curve. It follows the curve of my collarbone. You see here. So this is how it sits. So when I feel along the side of my shoulder rest here and this side, I can't stick my finger in underneath it anywhere because it is a perfect fit. Once you've got a perfect fit, you need to make sure that your shoulder rest is so high that it fills up the gap between your shoulder and your jaw, because that's where you're going to hold it. So if you have your violin here and you've got this much space left, then you need to somehow either raise your chin rest, this one here. You can buy chin rests that have got a little screw that you can raise or lower, or you might get your shoulder rest to go up a little bit so that you cover all of this. Now, it seems a bit weird to be talking about this when we were addressing the thumb, but you can imagine now, if I can hold this freely, now I can allow my thumb to be relaxed because I don't need my thumb to hold the violin, you see. And of course, I'm not holding the violin to play all the time with my jaw, but this is a balance. Sometimes my neck gets a bit tired and then I'll hold it more with my left hand, and at other times my left hand feels stiff and I'll hold the violin more with my jaw, you see. And it's a balance, and that balance is the key to your success. So I'm hoping that's answered your question. That's nice to know. Someone says, I found your lessons and started only yesterday. Well, it's lovely of you to turn up here today, and I'm hoping that this will be a longer term collaboration and that you learn to play the violin properly. As I've said, this is a lovely thing. A couple of people have just out of the blue booked lessons via my calendar on my website, www.proamstrings.com, and that was I've seen that a couple of times, but it was really, really nice for me to see some feedback on how people have developed, and people have practiced with this channel for about 8-9 months, and they're really, really good violin players. So the potential is there. If you stick with it and you keep it going, you're going to learn to play the violin with my YouTube channel. So wonderful to see you here today as well. And if any of you feels like every so often you might have some individual feedback on your playing, just to make sure that you stay on the straight and narrow, then by all means go onto my website and see if you can book an individual lesson. It's only got to be maybe half an hour or so, and you'll be confident that you're progressing along the right lines. Joe says, how much it would to know how much it would be to know all the notes on the violin and to be able to play any song, including the hard ones like Vivaldi. Again, Joe, that depends on how much time you put in, isn't it? This is one of those 10,000 hour things. If you want to play the violin very, very well, it takes 10 years. I'm not going to lie about it. However, if you want to learn to play for pleasure and get a lot of pleasure out of it, you have only got to do it for 2 days and make nice sound, and that will then encourage you to do more, isn't it? I'll tell you nice little story. Once I got a phone call from a retired gentleman, and he said, I'm now retired. He was a very posh gentleman, and he said, I'm now retired, and I've set myself a goal of wanting to learn to play the Beethoven violin concerto. Can that be done? And I said to him, well, shall we come along and talk about it, and we'll have a couple of lessons, and I'll let you decide whether that is manageable or not. How much time have you got? And he said, I've got lots of time because I'm now retired. And we started to learn, and immediately it became clear that actually he is one of those people who finds it very, very challenging to disconnect the left and right hands, like the exact same thing that we talked about earlier on with the vibrato. If you do vibrato there, can you still play the bow smoothly? So after a couple of lessons, this gentleman said to me, thank you, you have enlightened me, but that is an inachievable goal, isn't it? So it depends on how you quantify your goals and where you want to go. But I play tennis very badly, but it gives me lots of pleasure, and I think that should be your starting point, not trying to get as far as you see on the television, you see. So Ojo says someone else. Okay, Kim, that is a very nice comment. She's not too very arthritic, so I'll study your vibrato video. Yeah, give it a go and let me know how. I like you guys because you're just taking the mickey out of each other. The struggle is real. Lovely. And this sums it up why these live classes, I just love doing them because you guys are so funny. Here I am again, says Kim. Suggestion for shorter shoulder rest for an adult. I've tried a kun and a wolf, and they're both too tall at the lowest setting. Tired of using a hot pad trivet as a shoulder rest? Yes. Now, good question. I'd have to see you to be able to judge that. I can't judge that by just from a bit of text. You've tried the kun and the wolf, you say, and they're both too tall at the lowest setting. I am just wondering whether you have naturally a very short neck, and that may well be the case, but I'm not sure that a hot pad or a trivet is the right way forward for you. And I don't know. I'd have to see you to judge what is right for you. So it may well be that it's not your neck that is short, but the way you hold your violin or the way you have your chin rest. So if you want me to look at that, just book us a lesson, and then we can discuss that in greater detail. That's really nice. Thank you, Kim. Okay, got it. Thank you, says Joe. That is very nice. Now, I am coming to my 2 questions that people have asked in comment sections below videos. It may well be one of you guys who've asked those questions. So here we are again. The Rosin question, I think we've answered. And then there was another question. Actually, I've made a note, and this is Wendy who asked this. And Wendy was here earlier, wasn't she? Maybe she's still here. That's good. About Pinkies slipping off the bow. And I think that was you, Wendy, wasn't it? I've made a note here on one of my stickies on my screen. Pinky slipping off the bow. First of all, that has something to do with the strength of your pinky. So that is a matter of progressing into it, and it will become easier. But I'll tell you a little trick of the trade. Most of you will have bows that have got angles here. So it's mostly hexagonal, I think, most bows. And if you have edges here, that's a good thing. Now, little trick is grow your fingernail of your pinky just slightly longer so you can hook it. Can you see that? Just over that edge. And this way, it won't slip off quite as easily. Can you see that? Now, as you progress, I want you to do lots of this sort of exercise as well. And what that does, your pinky is made stronger by this muscle here. Forgive me, I don't know all the names of all the muscles, but you can feel that there is tension right here if you bend your pinky. So if you do this quite a lot, you are going to increase your control. In the meantime, you can use your nail to control it, but eventually you want to be stronger in your hand right here, you see. Now, that exercise for most people is incredibly difficult to do. So you might vary it and do some seesawing and see if you can do some kayaking like that. And kayaking backwards is a whole lot more difficult. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so try that lots and lots. And you might use that as your warm-up as well. We talked about the warm-up earlier on, didn't we? So long bows, open strings. And when you do that, every time you go to the heel of the bow, see if you can bend that little finger and make it nice and round. Then if you play a down bow, your finger will straighten, your pinky will straighten. As you play up bow again, your pinky will bend again. And this way you start to control the mechanics of the bow hold. And this is why we've got such a complicated bow hold, because your bow needs to be able to be manipulated up and down. Can I do that with my index finger and my pinky? So my bow swivels on my thumb, more or less. Can you see that? This is a good exercise for you to try. If you haven't got your violin ready, use a pencil, because it gives you the same effect and it's much lighter on the hand. Okay, so up and down, seesawing, and you can see the pivot point is there on your thumb. Now let's do some kayaking. So you go forwards, backwards like that. Okay. Very good exercise for that pinky. Look at that, how it's working. Can you see that? Now, this is a pinky. Don't get me wrong. This is a pinky that's played the violin for 40 years. Yes. So it's rather well practiced. If that's you and you can do it once or twice, brilliant. Really good start. Okay. Now, then you might steer it forwards and backwards, because that is something else that you can do with the bow. Steer it closer to the bridge or further away from the bridge. You see? Now, after a little while, you'll feel that your muscle here is getting tired. So give it a good rest, give it a really good shake, and try it again tomorrow. And you'll find that after 3 weeks, you'll suddenly think, my pinky is slipping off much less, you see. And that is how progress goes. It goes also 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So don't worry if one day you come across it and you think, today's not my day. In a way, I think those off days are sometimes good, because it allows you then to progress again afterwards, you see. So gently with the bow hold. You're doing the exercise. That's really nice. Really good. Dankjewel voor alle tips en voor alle lessen op YouTube. Ik ben er super blij mee. Sorry, that was a little bit of Dutch. Good to see you, Mariska. And it's lovely to read some Dutch in these lessons as well. All kayaking. Okay, says Wendy. Kim, how long should a beginner practice in one session? That is without putting down the violin. When I start practicing, before I know it, I've been in there for an hour and a half. No pain, but is it okay? That is the crux, isn't it? If you are in no pain and you're not tired, then yes, for you, that is okay. For the next person, 10 minutes might be too much. That person might be completely exhausted. So go until you think, now I've got enough, either mentally or physically. You think, I'm getting a bit tired. I always do the shopping list trick. I always say to my pupils, when you start to think of chocolate or you're shopping, it's perhaps time to stop, because you're not focusing completely on what you're doing. So, yes, that varies from person to person. But I always say to people, short and often is the best way to progress. So if you practice for an hour and a half and you can focus for an hour and a half, absolutely fine. It was lovely to see you all here. Very, very nice. And I'm hoping to see you many times in future on my YouTube channel. Again, if you want to support the channel so that I can make more videos, do please consider a donation to PayPal, via PayPal on info@proamstrings.com. I'll write it here again. I'm getting you all the information wrong, don't I? proamstrings.com. Okay. Joe, I'm going to answer your question on another day. Follow the lessons on YouTube and we'll take you one step at a time, okay? So info@proamstrings.com if you want to make a donation. If you feel like you could benefit from an individual bit of playing, then by all means go on www.proamstrings.com. And on my website, there is a booking calendar, and I have got a few slots free for the odd lesson here and there. So if you want some individual feedback, just so you know that you're progressing in the right way, then by all means, have a look at that. Thank you for your time today. And will there be a Suzuki Method Part 3? Yes, it's on my to-do list. Obviously, at the moment, my first priority is Christmas carols for you all to enjoy. And then some of my students are struggling with their grade 3 and grade 2 scales. So I'm recording those at the moment. And then there is something else about the third position that I want to do. And then it is hopefully book 3 by Suzuki. Okay, so it's on my list and I know that you guys are waiting for it. If I had no day job, it might be might be quite good to do it, but it's coming at some point. Thank you all for attending today. It was lovely to see you all, and I look forward to see you again very soon. Bye.